So today's episode is a little bit unexpected because I am interviewing a guest on today's episode, and I thought the conversation was going to go one way, but it went in a on a completely different angle, and I think you're going to love it. So what you might think is going to be a boring conversation about tech and software turned into quite a philosophical, if I can say that word, conversation around self-worth, value, when's the right time to invest in software, why so many clinic owners are leaning into the poor person mantra rather than the rich person mantra. And I'm not trying to suggest that one is better or worse than the other. I'm just saying that what's going to serve your business is leaning into, how do I make this work? What do I need to do? Yes, I need to make the investment and then move forwards from there. So it really opened up quite a big conversation around lots of different angles, and particularly talking about humans and the human element to technology. So I hope you enjoy this episode. I loved recording it. Without further ado, pull up a chair, grab a cup of tea, or if you're in your car, listen up for this week's episode, all about tech and software in your business. Welcome to the Treat Your Business podcast, the show for clinic owners who want real, honest advice and tried and tested ways of doing things. I'm Katie Bell, and this is the new era of bigger insights and bolder conversations to help you grow a clinic and a life you love. Let's dive in. Hi, listeners. Welcome to the Treat Your Business podcast. Super excited to have you all here listening in today. I have a very special guest, and without further ado, let me hand over. Please introduce yourself to all of our listeners.
Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for having me. My name is Javia, and I am here with Jane App Software. I have been with Jane for about 8 years now. So I've been part of Jane since the early stage, beginning of the startup. So it's been a really amazing experience, and it's a wonderful place to work. Yeah. And I'm just really excited to be here and chat with you all. Thanks for having me.
You are so welcome. I am really excited to talk to you. I always have great conversations, and usually I get Ben, and I'm so happy that I've got you this time.
Yeah.
So let's talk about, first of all, I think one of the biggest challenges that I see in the industry is choosing which software to go with. And perhaps you've been with one software for a long time, and the thought, I absolutely know how this feels, having moved to Jane several years ago now. The thought of moving often is worse than the actual moving itself. And the experience of moving across, I was thinking, oh, this is just going to be absolutely awful. We've got a massive database, we've got loads of patient names. How are we going to facilitate this move? But whether or not, we're not here to just necessarily talk about Jane, we're here to talk about software in general.
Yeah.
If people are thinking about moving software because it isn't facilitating their business, it's not serving their business in the way they need it to, I think the biggest barriers are often cost for people. They think it's going to cost a lot of money. The actual legwork behind moving puts people off. And then when they move, I think we are so busy as business owners, we then don't optimize and utilize the software to its full capacity. So we don't get our return on investment as quick as I think we probably could, because we're just so busy. We just move over and think, all right, that's it, just books appointments. And that's all it needs to do. But there's so many more things to consider, isn't there? Do you want to just explore your experience around that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's completely natural to feel really nervous about that kind of a change. A lot of the time, and a lot of the people we speak to as well, they might have been using the same system for 10 years or something. So it's the thought of having all of that like data stored and all of the medical records. And it just seems like this massive task that feels like a mountain to climb. It's actually on the tech side. I'm not going to say it's like it would be super easy for someone that isn't an expert in that area. But I think if you have a team that know how to work with that type of data, know how to move those files across, it's not, for those kinds of experts, it isn't a massive thing. We deal with it every day. So to us, it's, oh yeah, that's fine. You've got 60,000 patients, no problem. So I think sometimes it's one of those things, it's partially like the fear of the unknown, which is, of course, we all have that. You don't know what it's going to look like. So something I always like to speak to people about is giving them a clear path of what to expect, how long the journey is going to be, how we can support them, and like we can hold their hand through it. Because I think a lot of it feels like it's quite an isolating experience,
Yeah.
and it's typically a clinic owner who's taking it on, and maybe some of their members of their team, and it becomes this thing that you put off and put off because you're just not really sure what to expect.
Yeah.
So I think when, okay, this is what this path is going to look like, and I've got a team behind me that are going to support me with my new software, and they're going to help me, and they're going to, even for Jane, I can't speak for every software, obviously, but we have phone conversations. We will talk them through every step. We will call them if they're struggling to export their files from the system they're in and say, okay, don't worry, let's share our Zoom, let's work through it together. And I think if you don't know that you're going to have that experience, it's hard to trust.
Yeah.
But if you can have those conversations and be vulnerable and talk about how you're anxious and you're stressed, and you get into all these conversations, and sometimes it goes a lot deeper than the software change, there's often something bigger going on.
Yeah.
It just really depends on, yeah, having a group that can support you and the human side of that. And I think part of the fear with tech is that it feels impersonal. And over time, things are becoming so much more automated. People feel like maybe they're not going to have access to that human help. Oh, I'm just going to have to drop these things somewhere in the ethers and I've no idea what's going to happen. And is someone going to help me? Oh, no, I'm just not going to do it. But I think as time moves forward in the world that we're living in, there's no replacement for like human connection and empathy, especially when you're transferring into a new system. But in any technology, in any industry, you can't, it's lovely. I'm not saying those tools aren't important. They're super important and you need them to make your lives easier, to gain a bit more time back for sure. But you also want to know if you are really struggling, you can just call someone and they can untangle a complex problem. And that isn't something that AI or an automated system is going to be able to do. So,
And that's
yeah,
really refreshing, isn't it? Because I think AI is what appears to be taking over the world. And there is a lot of good that's going to come from it. But I also
yeah,
think, and I know this personally, when you have a, I don't want to have to get into a conversation with a chatbot to be able to get through to customer services, to just
hmm,
be able to pick up the phone and say, this is the problem, can you help me? And I think
yeah,
that's really powerful with Jane, is that you can actually get on the phone with somebody
yeah,
and get relatively instant answers to your questions.
yeah,
And I guess we want the system to automate. We want any system, we want it
yeah,
to be as automated as possible. We want to really leverage every possible aspect of the technology. But I think you then still need that, like you've just said, that human connection and that
mm,
human centric viewpoint, and a community that you can tap into that's going to help you utilize the software and get everything set up that you need to in the quickest possible time frame.
yeah, absolutely. And that's exactly it. You want the flexibility to go, you know what? I just have a quick question. It's something simple. I just want to throw this in a chat and then someone tell me the answer. I don't want to write a long email. I don't want to talk to someone. I'm that way myself, where I'm like, oh, I'm not in the, maybe you're just not in the mood that day. And you think, I don't really want to have to talk to someone right now. I just want to find the answer myself. That's super important to have that accessible information. But the flip side of that is when you're on your own and you're closing the clinic that night and it's Friday and there's like an absolute mess of someone's insurance. That is like you'd want to be able to, maybe before you tell your boss that you can't figure it out, you want to be able to call someone and be like, okay, I've no idea what I've done here. I'm in a right pickle. Please, can you help me? And it's that life raft. And those moments happen. That's just how life is. Not everything is always like smooth and quick. And I think having that diversity in the support that you have access to is really important. And a lot of places, which I totally understand from a business standpoint, it makes sense if you maybe you're trying to save a bit of money and people can access a lot of the information online. You don't have someone there, and it's become over time with even with banks and everything, it's stripped back, like
Yeah.
further back and back. But then if you do hit a wall and you do have a bit of a crisis, that's when it becomes way more stressful because you just don't have someone to actually go, listen, I need to explain this complex situation. can you help me untangle it?
Yeah.
And I do think, my personal opinion is, I do not fear, but I worry that people are losing that support that they need in those circumstances. And that's also what puts them off doing it in the first place.
Definitely.
Yeah.
If we flip now to the listener who, most of our listeners are going to have some form of software. Some of
Yeah.
them are going to be really happy with what they've got, and it is serving their clinic where they are now. But I always talk about, where is your business going to be in 18 to 24 months? And the more that you can start to project how your business is going to perform, because it is a little bit of a finger in the air, this is what I think we're going to do. But when we have targets and we have forecasts, we can then go and take the necessary action to go and achieve those. But I think a lot of mistakes we see clinic owners make is they focus on where they are now and what software they've got now to serve their business where they are now. And
Yeah.
so then the business goes through a growth cycle, and we then realize that the software that we did have is now not suitable for where we are. But we've now got this complete tangled mess and this massive monster that is really hard for us to claw back and change systems. And I remember when we opened my clinic, was I with TM3? I was with was it TM2 at the time? TM2, TM3, whatever it was.
Yeah.
And did we then move to PPS? I can't even remember now. But then we've ended up with Jane. But pre that, I had A4 diary with a pencil. And it was like, I wrote, because it was just me in the clinic, I wrote everybody's appointments in, and I scribbled all that. And it was like a complete jumbled, utter mess to start with. And then we had an Excel spreadsheet where I had everybody's names on who was coming to different classes and various things. And one of the things that grew really quickly in my clinic was the Pilates side of stuff. This was way before I even knew about Jane. And we're talking like 11 years ago now. And it grew so quick that I then had sheets of paper, Excel spreadsheets that were completely out of control. Had I thought at that time, this is where my business is going and this is where I want it to be in 18 to 24 months, and therefore I need to invest in this software now for classes, and we use TeamUp for our classes. And because we had to bring it in 10 years ago, so we probably had a year of a diary and all the old school stuff. But then to move to software, having got a year under my belt in business, was just so hard, because I then got all these manual entries, documents, things, spreadsheets, and I'd got a business and a system and members that I then had to move everybody into, and that was even harder. So I think it's really important, isn't it, to, if you are listening to this and you are a young business, or you're thinking about setting up your business, you need to decide what this business is going to look like in 12, 24, 36 months. And what software do you need to facilitate that? And often people go, oh yeah, but it's really expensive. Yeah, you're looking at it in a completely wrong way, because if you don't invest in this and you try and do it too late, the time, the energy and the money spent to get it integrated into your business is so much more than it would be if you just start with the right software to begin with. And so for those clinic owners who maybe have a filing cabinet and paper spilling out, how easy is it for them to move into or move on to or get software in their business? Perhaps Jane is the right one for them. How easy is it if you're not transporting already existing data that's electronic?
It's a really simple answer, which sometimes takes people by surprise. If you're switching from paper, other than your patient list, just save what you've got for as long as required to save it, and you just start fresh. Like, you don't actually really need everything in there. You can also, of course, like, if you want to scan all your documents into the patient file, and you can do that, but if you're already in possession of it, it's a clean break in a way, because it's okay, this is how I've been doing things. I'm going to provide my software company with just a list of all the people that I actually have in my books. They can upload that for me. I can literally do it in Excel or something simple. And then I just start my new life and I save everything I have for the required amount of time. And that always surprises people, because it's, oh, actually, yeah. So people switching from paper is actually the easiest. Like, when I talk to those people, I'm like, well, You're lucky. And I think a lot of the questions we get from people that maybe haven't used another system, there's this narrative on it being really unsafe. Oh, I've got my papers here, so I know it's okay, but I don't trust that cloudy thing.
Let's dive into that, because I
Yeah.
think that's really interesting. Whether you are a clinic owner that hasn't got software and is thinking about getting it, or whether you are like me and has got loads of software in your business, there
Yeah.
is also this fear, isn't there, about cybersecurity now, and like, how safe is it, and are we doing all the right things, and is Jane safe enough, and is the software safe enough? So I'd really
Yeah.
love you to give our listeners some reassurance
Yeah.
in a lot of ways.
Yeah, absolutely. And that is a question that comes up a lot. If you are registered to be able to be a software that handles sensitive data, you have to obviously pass a bunch of protocols. So, you have to be HIPAA compliant. It has to be an encrypted system to secure the data. It's locked in data centers that literally physically have a man trap level security, which is a lot more secure than someone that could just elbow your window and grab your files, or maybe there's a fire or something and everything burns up in flames and that's it. And they've got all these backups as well. So it's actually a lot more secure and like extreme, the same as what banks have. That's the level of security in medical software. And allied health medical software is the same, because it's still people's private sensitive information. That is so much more secure than you knocking over your candle in your office, or accidentally leaving the door unlocked, or even just someone breaking in. You can't really do anything in those situations. If someone breaks in, they break in. So I think it is something that, again, I guess it comes back to that sort of fear of the unknown. But if you can educate yourself on it, and speaking to anyone at Jane, on the team, or other softwares about that, when the more you know about it, the more safer you feel. So I do think it's important, and we have all of that information available to send people of exactly how it works. And even just knowing that that is the case, I think hopefully that gives people and the listeners that might hear this today some comfort in knowing that actually the way that you might previously have thought of it is an old narrative, but it's not necessarily the truth anymore, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. And I guess we need to be, as clinic owners and as our team, they need to understand how the data is stored and secure, because we're getting more and more questions, particularly
Absolutely.
now we're taking
Patients
card
ask a lot
details.
about that, don't
Yeah,
they?
we're taking
Yeah.
card details. We want to store cards on the system. Patients ask, how secure is this? How safe is this? And we need to have a great answer. So what would be the answer that you would recommend that we give to our
Mm.
patients?
Yeah, so for stored cards, it stores token of the card. Again, when you're dealing with processing stored cards, the data is encrypted as it travels to the cloud and back. And it's only a token of the card that is stored in the actual system. So there's no way that you can just pull that information out and again, you're more vulnerable if you're walking around with your wallet in
Yeah.
your bag than you are having that card and a token of the card. Not the actual whole card isn't stored in the software system. It's stored with the bank. It's just a kind of a token of that. And then it has to respond to the bank to then get the rest of the information to then process the card. So that again is one of those things that it's actually way safer than having someone just present you physically with their card.
And if we've got people's home addresses and their emails and things like that stored, and medical information, and somebody said on the desk, how safe is this? Because we've just had the whole Marks and Spencers and Co-op, where
Yeah.
they literally it was just horrendous for me, because I've not been able to shop on Marks and Spencers online for so many
I know
months.
I wasn't getting my Sparks points for a while there.
But this has put more and more fear, hasn't it, into
Mm.
people shopping online, doing things online. So I guess, what's our answer about how we store their data? What do we say to patients if somebody was to ask how we store their data electronically? What do we say?
Yeah, it's a similar answer, I suppose, with the data center storage and the kind of encryption that happens like as information is traveling into the cloud and back. But also, of course, everyone has like their secure password, their two-factor enabled. So that's part of it as well. And I think in a way, it's a slightly easier answer for when we're talking about storing data in a medical system than it is like a shop. They don't need to have that intense of a, yes, they need to be GDPR compliant. And I'm not going to pretend I know too much about how they're storing their data because I've got no idea, but it's not the same level or grade as it is with sensitive medical information. Because of that fact, personal information is stored in the same way as like the same level of security as a medical chart is. So that is different than something that's maybe just a shopping app doesn't need to necessarily have that because
Yeah.
it's not holding medical records.
And I guess
Yeah.
that's reassuring, but also important that our listeners have some form of script on their reception desk with
Yeah.
something that they can read, or they can just show the client and say, actually, this explains it really well, better than I could probably explain it myself. And it's something
Yeah.
that we pre-prepared.
Totally. And we can provide write-ups and blurbs that you can provide to patients for that kind of thing. And a lot of people find it really helpful to even just have it on their online booking site where
Yeah.
they'll have like the online booking banner at the top will just give like a blurb of information to just put people at ease before they're even booking. So they know, okay, this is how this works and I feel comfortable doing this.
Sharing my data with them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So we've busted that myth about my filing cabinet is way more secure than my online software. And we've reassured listeners that actually, if they haven't got if they don't know it, they need to go and ask their software provider and understand it so that they can then relay that back to patients. You could have something printed off. The Jane team would be able to help provide some blurb that they could use to help reassure their patients, particularly when they're storing card details and sensitive data. We started to touch upon the kind of human side of tech and that community that particularly Jane really leans into, and the importance of, if you're going to switch software, having the ability to connect with somebody, communicate with somebody, and other clinic owners can be really powerful.
Yeah.
One of the other things that you wanted to talk about on today's episode was about this whole kind of work-life balance. And I thought this is quite a juicy thing to drop in there between safe tech and human tech side.
Yeah.
Why particularly did you want to bring this up in relation to what we've been talking about today?
Yeah, I think even that story that you shared about how you didn't know you were going to be that busy until you arrived there,
Yeah.
like that kind of, it's over preparing and going with the flow, which is a philosophy that my dad's always said that to me as I was growing up, and I didn't really understand it until I got older, how much that is a way. And I think as well, when you're the clinic owner, it's the same also as a practitioner. Or someone setting up a new business, you really want to ask yourself, like, what is it really that I'm trying to manifest here? Like, do I want to grow? And the answer's different for everyone. Do I want to grow a really amazing, fruitful business that expands and it's more than I ever thought it would? Or maybe that's not someone's dream. Maybe they want to manifest, you know what, I want to do what I love, but I really want to spend more time with my family as well. And I don't want my work to I don't want to be living to work. I want to work so I can live.
Yeah.
So that kind of flip. And I think my advice for people, and with switching to softwares or even just starting to use it, don't wait until you're overwhelmed to make a change. And just setting yourself up for success in the way that you can work smarter and not harder. Because I think a lot of the time, especially in like British culture, it's if I'm working hard and I'm grafting, I'm going to be successful. And it's just not true. You don't have to be knackered and miserable to be happy, if you know what I mean.
I
And I think,
absolutely know what you mean.
yeah, that is something that I hear a lot from people that use Jane, is you don't really know what a weight is lifted until you make that change
Yeah.
and you make that shift. Yeah.
And I think that kind of ties in really nicely, isn't it, to planning, like you just said, what are you manifesting? Where is your business going? What does this business have to do for you? And how does it need to serve you? And then the first thing to really lean into is what tech can get me there and support me, because that is the smarter way of working. And I think it's really listening to what narrative comes up when we say to people, and I know this in Thrive actually more than anything, that we shifted software and then we had to shift again because there was an issue, and then we had to shift back again. And it was so hard, but it was like this, that what we have got is not serving the business, and is not going to serve the business in the next 12 months. So although right now I could probably just keep going and it's just a bit of a ball ache and it's taking a lot of my time, but my urgency and like need was like, I've got so many other things that I need to be doing. I can't possibly think about moving software again. Actually, I had to really, and the financial aspect for us of shifting. But then I had to listen to the narrative of, okay, where's this coming from? Why am I not prepared to invest in this to make this shift? Because I'm going to see that return over and over again. And I think a lot of clinic owners, we stop ourselves in our tracks because of cost of things. And I think that's quite a small minded attitude when it comes to running a business, because a rich person's mantra would be, how am I going to make this work? What do I need to make this work and get the return on investment? And for want of a better word, a poor person's mantra, not saying rich or poor is better or worse, just saying these are the two different sides of the story, would be, I can't possibly invest, it's too much money, I'm not worth it, it's not going to work for me. And that stops people from making that jump, doesn't it?
It does, yeah. And that scarcity mentality, which is really hard to get out of.
Yeah.
It can hold you back. But it is one of those things where it's, okay, what do I actually want my life to look like? Just even a small improvement that can lighten your daily load in your admin, it's a short-term effort for a long-term goal. And the way that I always like to look at pricing for Jane is, okay, it should cost, based on one practitioner, one appointment a month. So when you put it in that framing, you're like, oh, okay. So if I just need to do one appointment in an entire month, I can do this. And then, of course, when you've got more people and you've got more practitioners, you go, so we need everyone to do one appointment a month. Yeah, that seems pretty reasonable. But it's hard to sometimes zoom out and go, that's actually the reality here. Yeah, absolutely. But it is, work-life balance is just becoming more and more important, because we do live in a world where, as things are more automated, we go, oh, I can do a bit more because I've got help with certain things. And that is true, but let's use it to our advantage. So
absolutely.
the skills that you have, maybe you're amazing with people and treating, but you really suck at marketing. You're not good at social media. It freaks you out. So outsource those things, get a system that supports you with automating reminders and newsletters and things that it's not really naturally your forte. So you can do the things that you're actually really good at and double down on what is where you're successful, instead of trying to be everything, because you're just one person. And I think that is what is overwhelming for practitioners and business owners is, oh gosh, I've got to take this thing on and I've got to be amazing at absolutely everything. No, you don't, because you're human. You don't have to be amazing at everything. So choose a system that works for you. If you're someone that, I don't know, like struggles with the billing and the mathematical side of everything and the bookkeeping, choose a system where you can get people to help you with that if you get stuck. Just considering those things. Not everyone needs that. Maybe people are more of a tech whiz and they can handle it all on their own, and that's great. And those people are empowered to do that, but that's not everyone's journey.
You're so right. And I think the narrative for a lot of our clinic owners listening to this is that they have to be everything to everybody and everything. So not only are they trying to be like the superhero in the business and have to have all of the answers, they're trying to do that at home as well. And this narrative it's really hard to break. So if we can't break it at home, because we have to be the one that's running the house, the kids, the lunches, the teas, the after school clubs, thinking about all the bandwidth that we have to take on, we then take that narrative into our businesses and then think that has to be how it is there as well. And I think for a lot of clinic owners, being able to outsource and offload runs deeper than, I'm just not good at it. It's, am I worth it?
Exactly.
Am I good enough? And do I deserve to get more help? And we spend a lot of time in Thrive working on that with people, because we can work on strategy, we work on software and systems and tech and automations all day long. But actually, if the if the underlying feeling here is that they're not worth it and that they're not good enough and that they don't deserve A players and great people and great systems around them, then it will never work.
Yeah.
So
And yeah, absolutely. And I do truly believe that time is our most precious commodity. And you can't really put a price on that in my mind, even if it's just for your mental well-being, time back with your family, time to spend on the patients, or if you want to use that time to book more people in, that's great too. But it's up to you then. At least you have it to play with,
yeah,
as opposed to feeling like you maxed out in every aspect of life.
absolutely.
Yeah.
If people were thinking about moving their software, and I love Jane, I love all the team at Jane, what's the biggest benefit that Jane has when it comes to working with you and using your software?
I would have to say I believe it's the human support that I think really sets us apart, because it is more of a partnership than it is, oh, I'm just setting up a new system and then if I get stuck, someone can help me. Like, it does run a lot deeper than that. It's more of a partnership where you've got someone on the end of the phone if you need it. And I think that's what most people say. Yeah, a mental health practitioner said this to me once, where they said, if you could bottle trust and market that, that is what I have gained from being with Jane above all else. And that's really hard to market, because everyone says, you can trust us. It's an experience that you have to experience that to believe it. It's very difficult to explain that, because anyone can say it. It has to be felt and experienced. But I would say, to me, that is something that I know without a doubt, a shadow of a doubt, that Jane really offers, and it is our superpower, is that human support. And also, not just for needing help when you get stuck, but connecting you with other people. We know a lot of people in the industry, so we know people in different areas and clinics that are maybe close by, and maybe someone's retiring and someone's starting out. Like, maybe they should connect, because one person's trying to sell their chiropractic beds and the other's trying to buy some, and they've not got much money. So it's like the community aspect of it as well, I would say. Yeah, human support and the community.
Amazing. This has been,
Yeah.
I love how this podcast has gone, because when you have to talk about technology, God, I love you all, but it's not my thing. Like, I love it in my business, but to talk about it, I was like, okay, how do we provide value for our listeners? But I loved it when you said on your little questionnaire before you come on, we want to talk about the human side of it. And then we've gone down all of these little rabbit holes
Yeah.
around self-worth and the narrative and the work-life balance.
It's
and
beautiful how it unfolds, isn't it? Yeah.
And I think our listeners will get some real nuggets from things that we have said. From me to you and from all of our listeners, a huge thank you for giving up your time to be on today's episode.
Oh, thank you so much.
And
I
if they
love,
want
yeah,
to,
I love your program and love what you do. So thank you so much.
you are so welcome. If they want to reach out to you and further this conversation, how do they do that?
Yeah, so you're welcome to check us out on our website, which is janeapp.co.uk. We do have a larger global Instagram under Janeapp, but we also have one specifically for UK practitioners, where we also love to celebrate them and the work they're doing in their communities. So on Instagram, you can find us at janeapp_UK as well. And you'll meet a lot of our team members on there too. So you could always send us a DM on Instagram. Our email and number and everything is on the website. But yeah, we'd love to hear from anyone that is inspired by anything that we spoke about today.
Fabulous. Thank you ever so much for being here. And please come back again soon.
Yeah, I'd love to. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Treat Your Business podcast. Hit subscribe now and keep joining me for bigger insights, bolder conversation to help you build a clinic and a life you love.